welcome once more. I think this is the third time or the fourth.
Hmm. I think it's the third.
Third time? Oh, I played
Yeah,
those games with you. It might be
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fourth.
without counting those.
I
Without
think
counting
yeah,
those. Yeah.
it would
Okay,
be
yeah, this is the third without counting the game sessions.
probably. I think so. And this time, the main subject is this year.
Oh yeah. Wait, that
Obviously,
one.
not the only subject, but
This thing.
it will be the main subject.
This is the magic thing. Woo. Yeah. Um, yeah. Blackmoor Foundations. I sent you guys a copy. What do you think?
Well, I'm not an expert in Blackmoor and even less in foundations, but
You
it
have no
seems
foundations.
yes, the foundations are even more complicated than the Blackmoor itself. I only found out about Blackmoor while watching your documentary.
Okay.
I had heard about it, but it's just for me, it's just a name basically.
But it's
Uh,
like, I mean, it's like, yeah. Well, so I sent
this
you a
one,
book, and you're just
this
not.
one,
You guys aren't into the
more
fantasy
like
that much, are you?
this one is more like an historical document, right? Not,
Yeah,
your other book was meant to be played. This is not meant to be played. It's meant to be read, right? Uh,
Yeah. Well, I
this,
think it depends on what, like the Blackmoor. Most of the people that are in the Blackmoor RPG community are home brewers, and there isn't a lot of material out there. I even talk about that in the foreword about how. What do I say in there? I'll just reiterate what I said in there. Oh, just that, like, yeah. There's the Temple of the Frog, the first fantasy campaign. You can get Temple of the Frog. The original one is in the Dungeons and Dragons supplement, which you can get easily enough. But the first fantasy campaign is out of publication, and it's like $500 if you try to find a copy on eBay. So most people don't have it. But I think the community of people who want to play in the Blackmoor setting, since it's the original setting, um, they're much more focused on homebrewing and just creating their own stuff. So when you give them a book with like we have the these are the isometric drawings that we think Arneson himself drew them, and so we have like how they go together, and then of the ones that we found so far, we also have these are like the actual maps that are page size that you can scan this and print it out if you want to. I don't care. Um, and so like Blackmoor players are more likely to be into something like this is the first time that a detailed map has been shown of where the town is within the hex. This is actually a drawing of a detailed drawing that would go with the first fantasy campaign map. And so Blackmoor players are going to be just flipping out because for them it's actually like actual. They can use the book to run their campaigns. If you're not a Blackmoor player and you're more geared toward like a lot of the 5e players, they want something that just tells them what to do, and has like A, B, C, D, E, F instructions that take you point to point. And so the new book, it's a history book, but it's also I think it's for the people who are really into Blackmoor and have been playing Blackmoor since at least since '77 when First Fantasy Campaign was published. Those people are going to be just astounded. It's like they've got all this new material, and then you see all the maps in here. Like well, they talk about in the original Dungeons and Dragons, they talked about using a game called Outdoor Survival because it had a hex sheet with terrain on it, and it was Dave Arneson who originally used that with his own group as like a wilderness setting map, and he hand drew it. He took the map and he redrew it by hand. And so we have that in here. So those people who want to move their Blackmoor campaign over away from the big map, the fantasy map, to the outdoor survival map, or even just use an outdoor survival map as like a domain game setting, um, it's in the book. They can just use it. Um, so it's really, I mean, it's kind of more for the toolbox type gamers. They don't want to be given everything. They just give me the rules and a little bit about the setting, and I want to make up my own stuff. And even like, I mean, this is like the first rendition. This is a probably a Xerox copy of the first rendition of Arneson's Blackmoor map, right there. So that's probably 1971 or so. Um, the other things about it, like the big thing in the book is that we found um, Ken Fletcher was the one who gave us a new box of things. Oh, there goes my camera. I love how my camera does that. Um,
Light.
Light. See if I can get some more light on me. Jesus, I need to buy a new camera. Um, and we named the writings that were in his collection the Blackmoor sagas. And what is interesting about those is like the Return to Blackmoor one. I don't know. You can't see it. It's tiny. Return to Blackmoor. It's the one where Dave Arneson talks about himself, and he writes this. It's like a play report. He's talking about himself arriving in Blackmoor as a person from the modern world, and his plane crashes, and he lands in Blackmoor, and that's kind of like the setup for one of the earliest adventures in Blackmoor that we know about. And so it's kind of interesting too because you could take that right up and you could there are people out there that are hardcore Blackmoor fans that will take the Arneson write up about his arrival in Blackmoor and turn it into a game. You know, they'll just take the map and they'll all the places he names, they'll take those places and they'll create their own, instead of being like a medieval knight in a fantasy world, Blackmoor is actually a planet in space in the future. And so you could have like people from the future land on Blackmoor, and you could run a game on Blackmoor like that. Um, it's kind of convoluted in that way, actually. And they even Arneson's group did that. They had people from um, John Snyder's science fiction game would land spaceships on Blackmoor, and then their technology stuff would start to degrade, and they wouldn't be able to escape the planet, and they'd be down there trying to figure out what to do on the planet, like as futuristic people in this medieval sort of planet. So I don't know. I think that a lot of Blackmoor fans are going to be flipping out over this because it's like it really is like a resource for them for that style of play, which is the really old school seat of your pants. I'm going to make it all up myself, you know.
So how did it start? Was also stuff that was found, or this was something that was found years later, or it was compiled at the time and was kept?
Oh, the stuff that's in the book.
Yeah.
Most of it, well, some of it's really old and we already knew about it, and so we put that in the book. It was stuff we used in the movie. Um, there is stuff like there was a lot of stuff that probably wouldn't work in a book. They were just like even Dave Arneson was finding other books and xeroxing pages out of books. Like there were pages from books about medieval castles that showed the architecture, and he had xeroxes in there, and that was a pack that he gave to Ken Fletcher as a guide, since Ken was the artist, was making the maps and would make the drawings. And so he gave him these historical resources to use. And we can't republish those, but so yeah, a lot of it is really old that we already knew about, but a lot of it is actually fairly new. There's just weird stuff like Arneson based Blackmoor on a map. He was running a Napoleonic campaign set in the Netherlands, and so he was using this old Dutch map to run that campaign. And when he started Blackmoor, he just took I don't know what the top is. This might be the top. Might be like this way, I guess. He took this Dutch map and he redrew it, and then he started using that as the Blackmoor map. So this is probably the actual original Blackmoor setting. Is this Dutch map from who knows when, and then he extrapolated that and got other maps, and it kind of, I mean, it's interesting because you got to see what is in the book is like a lot of old stuff. Well, it's all old stuff, but you get to see, because we've been able to put it together, you get to see it all sort of how it evolved. Like this is probably from about 85, and there's some red marks on there. which are probably hard to see. But Arneson was wanting to improve the city and make it more elaborate, and so he added a bunch of castle walls and more barracks for troops and stuff like that. And so it's sort of like if you were playing on a Blackmoor game, you might take this map and say, okay, my game is 50 years later than when the original players were there. So they're all like old people, or it's 100 years later, and the city has changed, and you can start your campaign a little bit in the future, so you can have a little bit more freedom to do what you want instead of having to follow a really specific canon, But sorry, I get into lecture mode. I hope I'm not too boring.
Do you, is this released in PDF as well, or just in paper?
Oh, just paper. We don't do PDFs because you know what people do with PDFs.
Piracy? Is that?
Yes. They send them everywhere.
Sometimes I read them as well.
Yeah, but it's like, why would I send out a PDF when you're going to send it to like 20 of your friends, and now I can't sell any more books?
Didn't you do a PDF of the other one, the previous book?
I happen to have a copy here. No, it's just.
Secret
I
of
mean, come
Blackmoor.
on, it's a $30 paperback, right? It's like this one, especially like this one.
They did the paperback, yeah.
This is 100 in the paperback version. It was 152. Is it 152? 154 pages, and it's $30. It's like, I don't know.
I was on mute. I was going to say, Griffith, that one of the reasons that I start looking at the book, but I said, "Oh, Griffith is going to talk about this with us," so it's more interesting to hear him.
Right, you get the personal history lesson.
Yes,
but to get back to
not something against the book, of course, but I actually like it now that I'm going to get it from you.
Well, you have the special version, like I think yours says like.
Yes, ours.
It's the
advanced and corrected proof, not for sale.
Yeah, we only printed about 20 of those, so it's like the really collectible special. You should put that one in a little plastic envelope and save it for 20 years. But what I was going to say about, you said some like, is it old, is it new? We have a lot of stuff that we just found last year. When I was writing the book, we'd only found the stuff maybe like 3 months before I wrote it, was working on writing it. And so it was all really new. And we have a history group that I dubbed it the Northern Marches Historical Society because Blackmoor is called the Northern Marches in Greyhawk. And so I sent all the scans out to those guys, and they've all been kind of like astounded by the things they see in it. There's just stuff like, here's the original map, or an original map, and it probably predates the whole role playing, but it outlines areas, like it says Williamsfort. And so Williamsfort is kind of like maybe what later became another city in Blackmoor. Like things move around in the campaign, and like he has the Iraks are listed in there as the bad people over there, which is now that area is the Elfwood. I think the Iraks might be orcs. I don't know. And he has Picts before. I mean, there are no orcs. There's the city of the Red Coven is probably the most fantasy thing in there. And I don't know, where was I going with that? But a lot of that's like there's this new stuff that like the new writings, the Blackmoor sagas section that Ken Fletcher had is stuff that no historian I know of has seen yet, unless it's somebody who's been hoarding their collection. And so no historians, like it's just a collector who has all these papers and they won't let anybody see it because that's what the collectors do, which is why I despise collectors. It's just finally nice to get it out there, like even within the historical community, the guys they're like, when can I publish a paper on this? I was like, just let me publish the book, and then you can publish a paper and just cite the book, because we're trying to do actual historical work. And so they're free to write about it, and anybody who buys the book that's any kind of game historian or even just a blogger that notices something all they have to do is they can show this, they can scan this and show it on their site, and as long as they just put a little watermark on it saying where they got it, like That's fine by me. The other thing, I keep going, I lose my train of thought. I do that a lot. So yeah, the sagas are what I was going to say. Those are the new ones, and they're all kind of amazing because these are some of the very first adventures in a fantasy RPG, and Dave Arneson took the time to do write-ups of what he remembered of his game sessions, and what the people were doing in the game sessions. So we have these documents now. It's amazing.
I I have a question, but you can.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
have a lot of well, it seems at least that you have a lot of documents that you guys are discovering. How do you decide what to put in each book? So, what is more or less the logic that you are using?
Well, we hadn't really planned on doing a history book. We just ended up with this stuff, and Chris was like, "Why don't you work on that instead of the adventure book?" Because I was working on this other book for this kind of castle setting that it's more like just talking about how to use horror setting type tropes in a fantasy setting. Um, and so even like somebody that's into horror might find it interesting because I sort of talk about the elements of horror and how to do that. But anyway, I had to set that
Is
one
that the next
aside.
book?
What's
Is
that?
that what you are mentioning? Is that your next book?
Yeah, it's called Spiral Keep, The Terror of Spiral Keep. And that's the one that's going to have a girl with boobs on it on the cover because it's intended as like a really toxic
We
book.
can already schedule that one. Horror,
Yeah, yeah,
horror.
Yes, horror and boobs. You're selling it
yeah.
to be held. So,
That no, I intend it to be like I put warnings on my books because they're really dangerous because RPGs are very scary and dangerous and people can be hurt, while playing an RPG with
Offensive.
pencil and dice. And so this one will have a warning that there's a lot of really bad stuff in there that might be overwhelming to some people and that they shouldn't. It's just like, trigger warning, disclaimer. Like, and just like if you don't, I think it's important to put a trigger warning on your book if you're going to have like, I don't know, like one of my things I talked about it last time, like the zombie skin curtains that, when you try to part the curtain, it starts chewing on your hand. Um, or any number of just terrible things. Like I have this one place that I've got this one scene where somebody is like sewn inside of a human body, and it's kind of gruesome and scary, and that would probably be triggering to some. There are probably people out there that have nightmares about being sewn inside another person's skin. So,
Maybe
so
that's a strange fetish, but yeah, maybe.
well, yeah, and so I have a lot of stuff like. I mean, I do the gothic horror, but I'm also doing a lot of the gruesome, bloody stuff. Um, what else? Yeah, I'm just working on all these tropes of having like these terrible things happen, and very horror based things. And because it's hard. I mean, you guys do horror and you like horror films. I know you like,
mhm.
you like Daughters of Darkness. That's a horror film. Um,
Any any horror film except new horror films because they aren't horror anymore. Nowadays, we don't watch movies.
Well,
yeah,
they are a bit.
We stop
They
watching,
are horrible in another way.
you like the pulp stuff. Yeah.
except the new ones. Yeah, we like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
But even
Everything.
your games, I mean, a lot of your themes are horror themes.
Most of them, actually.
Yeah.
Let's say that
And
Yeah,
even though
so,
they are not horror, they are
we put
almost.
horror in everything. Oh, it's fantasy. No, it's not. It's horror. We just
That's why Ratchet has always a supernatural element in it. So even when it's not horror, there can be a supernatural element. So
right.
we can turn it into horror when it's
Well,
not.
but yeah, I mean, but it's hard because like in a movie, you can like, the thing can jump out and scare
Yeah,
everybody.
Mhm.
It's
that's
really hard to do that in an RPG. You have to do other things.
But there's something I really hate about this new. Well, they're not that new, but there is a lot of horror films, and we were watching one. The Nun. You have the Nun, The Conjuring, Annabelle, all those that seem like the same type. When you just have some noise to scare you.
it's
Oh
just
yeah.
Yeah,
years
I
now.
hate when they do that. So it's not really, you're not
Nowadays,
really getting afraid. It's just a big noise and you jump.
the
Yeah.
only thing that they are using now is basically that some gore occasionally, but mostly loud noises and sudden
Huh.
images that can
Yeah,
be
I miss the pulpy stuff, or even the pre-pulpy stuff, like the old. I mean, that's why I'm writing about gothic horror because I'm really talking about like the old black and white movies. Those were like a really huge influence on Dungeons and Dragons, and like in fact, if you read in this book here, Arneson describes one of the adventures they go on, and he's using all these gothic tropes. He's got vampires, he's got werewolves, he's got the blob from the science fiction movie, but it's all these things that are coming out and going after, like the players come into a room and they just find buckets full of blood, and it's like, uh-oh, this has got to be like vampires have got to be around here, right? Stuff like that, like even the foreshadowing like that, like you find a thing and you can deduce that, oh, that means this kind of creature lives here. um, so yeah, I don't know, it's just harder to do it in an RPG though, you know
trying.
um,
I don't try to scare the players anymore.
really.
Yeah, I don't do that. I just do weird stuff usually, strange things happening, so people can get confused. It's easier to confuse people than to scare them. I mean,
Yeah,
in the players, not the characters. The characters can be scared, of course, and
the
that's
players, yeah.
that. But the players, I try to confuse them instead of scaring them.
Okay, I do
Sometimes
like.
it can get also a little bit scary in the way that you don't really know what's happening, and you can be scared for your character, not for yourself, of course. But for your character, it depends how much did you have, how much did you develop a connection to the character. Of course, if it's
Yeah,
just made the character is also complicated to have a connection. But
yeah,
if
I never get connected to my character anymore. I think I've lost too
yeah,
many characters now that,
it's difficult.
once you've lost at least 50 characters playing, it's just like, oh well, I'll just roll up another one, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, what else can we talk about? You're catching me like in a low energy, like I don't operate very well
Morning.
before 1 in the afternoon, but I have to be on camera with you guys at like
Is
11.
it before 1 o'clock?
Oh yeah, it's 11 in the morning. It's just coming up
Oh,
to lunchtime. Um,
okay. So it's
um,
7 hour difference, right?
yeah. Do you have any other questions about the book at all, or
Sure. Let's talk a little bit more about this. So when did you start this working on this one? Foundations.
okay? You have to speak really loudly for me because I can barely hear
Okay,
you.
I'm going to
Yeah,
approach
you
the
have
mic.
to away
Maybe
from
I'm
the
maybe I
mic.
was too far from the
Yes.
microphone.
There we go.
Uh,
Much better.
yeah, that was it. I was asking when did you start working on foundations?
Oh, foundations, like about, it was after we got back from, it was before Christmas, last Christmas. It took me about 6 months to write it. I'm really slow, like I know people like Rob Kuntz, when we offered to have him come to Arnecon, he offered to also write a module that he could run at the convention, which will be released after the convention. And he wrote his module in about a month. Like he just sat down and pounded it out. But I'm a lot slower. I have to think about things a lot, and it took 2.5 years to write the other book, and
but
the new
you
one
are
will
not
probably take.
working. You
What's
are not
that?
working alone. You are not working alone in these books, are you? There's someone else that is
Oh, on
working
the
with you.
one on this one, on the one you have on Blackmoor Foundations. It's just
Yeah.
me.
Oh, it was you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and then I have to do a lot of like cross checking and stuff to make sure the historical aspects are correct. I mean, I remember a lot of stuff, but I'm always having to go dig through all my old notes and go like, okay, what date did this happen on? Or else I'll write to the historian group, and I'll just be like, is this in this time period? Um, Stuff like that. It's just, I mean, it's harder than just making up a fantasy book because you have to like get all your facts straight. Um, and there are a lot of places where I don't know when things happened, and I think the historians are wrong on a lot of things. I'm pretty sure that Arneson was doing Blackmoor actually in 1970, beginning it in 1970. We just don't have any dated documents that say that it happened in 1970. And then Greg Svensson claims that his first dungeon adventure was at Christmas of 1970. So it pushes everything back a year. It's really hard to get. I don't know. I just don't trust the order of it. I'm just like, we know these things happen because we have it all documented, but I don't know when it happened. I can kind of bracket it. I can say it happened around this year, and that's about it.
That part must be difficult to be certain about things. When things are published, when they were published. But if it's just something that people were doing in their own groups,
yeah,
won't.
well, that's kind of been my argument. Even like published books about D&D, they will take the publication date of the thing and say this is when the thing appeared, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it appeared at least a month after it was being used. It was created a month before then, so your date is wrong no matter what, And so like when they see a published thing and they say like, this is the exact date, it's like, no, that's not the date. I mean, even a book, if you buy a book, what if it took the 5 years to write that book? Well, who knows when in that 5 years that particular sentence was written on that page. Yeah, I'm a little bit more, I guess, circumspect about how I treat dating on historical artifacts.
Especially when it's part of a game, so people are playing it before it was published, even for D&D, right? Because if it's a game, people are playtesting it, and sometimes people playtest something for a long time.
Yeah, D&D is the same way. I mean, we know that they've kind of been changing the dates on us. Like when we did Secrets of Blackmoor, at the time, McGarry was claiming that he and Dave Arneson showed Blackmoor and Dungeon board game to Gary Gygax in Lake Geneva in November of 1972. And now they're saying that it's 1973. I'm still sort of like, I don't know. I don't believe even McGarry's notes and stuff, the way they're assembling it. I think it's just a confabulation. I think that it could be either date. There's no real solid proof. And even then, like there was time, like they say that Gary Gygax wrote, like Dave Arneson sent Gary Gygax his rules, and Gary didn't like the rules, and so he rewrote them, and it took him about 2 weeks to write them. And the thing is that Gary Gygax, it's a fact that Gary Gygax and Rob Kuntz didn't understand how to run a game of D&D, and so they needed to learn how to be dungeon masters. And I'm pretty sure that Gary Gygax and Rob Kuntz, or at least Gary Gygax by himself, had to go to Minnesota and literally have a lesson on how to be a dungeon master from Dave Arneson, because there was no other way for him to learn how to do that. So that's kind of like stuff people don't really like. There's mentions of trips between cities and stuff. And I think part of what's going on in that period that isn't documented, and it's hard to, there's no way to document it, is simply they just went up and they played a game and watched how Dave was running his game so that they could learn how to run a game before they even started really working on Dungeons and Dragons. So, yeah, I mean, that's just my conjecture. But anyway, sorry. You guys are just so placid and calm today. Usually you're a little bit more animated.
Yeah, I think I'm very lazy today.
Really?
I think I'm also in low energy. Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking out your window there, Miguel, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah, we moved last year, so
you're in Lisbon, right?
We're in the same place, almost in the same place, but the window is not the same.
We are two streets down from where we were before.
Now so European of you. Do you guys even own a car? Like, do you need to own a car living there?
I don't think so, because I don't have a car, but she has a car.
Oh, okay. You're the driver.
Yeah, I'm the driver.
Yeah, I didn't learn how to drive till I was 32.
I don't drive a lot.
We could live without a car, I guess.
Yeah.
My mother was Italian, and so I never learned to drive till or maybe I was 34 when I learned to drive. I just never, I didn't have anybody to teach me. So, what else? I don't know. I mean,
so you said before that the book, besides being an historical document, could also be used by people that are interested in Blackmoor to base their own stuff and start. What kind of content can we find here?
Well,
That
like
is,
I was saying, the stories that Dave Arneson describes, you can read those and you can extract information about what kind of adventure you could create for your own players. Like just the encounters he describes, you can like reverse engineer that and go like, oh, I need to have, this room. What's interesting, I don't have copies of it. One of the guys took the descriptions and he compared the story descriptions to the actual maps of Blackmoor Dungeon, and he was able to trace the path that they went through the dungeon. And so, like, we actually have sort of a recounting of an actual adventure through the actual maps. Like, we know that the maps that are published in the first fantasy campaign are the actual maps of the dungeon, which was originally, I think, only 6 levels deep. So yeah, people could use it that way too. I mean, when he publishes that information, they'll be able to place the original encounters in those rooms and return them to sort of their original purpose. And then I think mostly just the world maps people need. It kind of gives them more perspective on how the world is arranged and what's where. Arneson published some things later with Zeitgeist Games. There were some Blackmoor books designed for 3E, and I haven't read those. I'm not interested in anything that wasn't actually written by Arneson. From what I know, he didn't really write them. And so I don't know. I think it just adds perspective, for people that are. It's different if you're a Blackmoor referee because you have to create a lot. There's some stuff out there, but you have to create a lot yourself. And then you have to do a lot of research and sort of extrapolate based on interviews with Arneson what different things are. So it's a very homebrewed. It's a different culture. Like the Blackmoor gamers are a thing unto themselves in that community. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's like they're just weird homebrewers.
those Blackmoor players have been playing since the 70s, or there are people that joined recently or more recently.
Since we put out the movie, there's like the Brazilians are really into the FKR thing. And I think it's Free Kriegspiel Rolle or something like whatever role playing is in Portuguese. Of course, they're Brazilians, so they're speaking that other Portuguese, which you guys probably don't approve of being Portuguese. But um, yeah, there's like a whole scene there, and they're into playing kind of with almost no rules. I don't know if you've encountered them at all, talking to people online.
I
No,
don't
we
think
know
so.
there's a big community of role players in Brazil, but yeah, I don't think we found the that particular group.
We just know a few Brazilians,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the FKR people are probably going to be the people who are more likely to do a Blackmoor campaign. And I played online with some Brazilians, and it was really fun. Actually, they all had a blast, and I ran them through Tonisborg, and they actually solved the mystery of my adventures. Always are kind of have problems and mysteries in them, and they found the proper solution and killed the bad guy. But it wasn't like you have to fight the bad guy. It's like you have to figure out who the bad guy is, and then they killed him. So it's kind of a mystery like that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to get in touch with the Brazilian community because they're the kind of the true Blackmoor fans is the Brazilians.
Hmm.
Dave Arneson went down to a game convention there, and they actually paid to bring him down to like their big game convention, maybe in the late '90s or something like that. And uh, I mean, he was just like a rock star down there. Like, Brazil's huge, so you have a game convention there. I'm sure it's huge. When he was signing signatures, he got trapped between the table and the wall behind him because the crowd was pushing so hard to get up near Dave Arneson. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that if you wanted to like find one location, Brazil is the place. You know.
Is there any specific? Well, do you know any particular reason for that? Was because some books were translated into Portuguese or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It must be that the original D&D was translated into Portuguese. I don't, nobody's really explained it to me. I think they were translating original D&D, and for some
Yeah,
reason,
they were until
Even in
recently.
Portuguese from Portugal, the
Yeah, there
isto
was
não the original, it was the red box, right?
yeah, it was just that for into Portuguese
Portuguese from Portugal, but
or European Portuguese was just there was just one translation, but the Brazilians have been translating everything until now.
that's what I'm think. That's what I'm finding interesting. I didn't thought Blackmoor would be a big thing there because they translate everything.
Yeah, it could
well,
be
Most of them,
just something like that, like
yeah,
the other.
yeah.
Let's say.
you know what it might be? Like if they started translating D&D like around the 80s, right? Or even,
Might
well,
be,
before the 80s, like
might be
maybe
the
like,
time that it could be that. Yeah, the time that they started translating it.
but if they did like the red box, which is like a BX, right?
Yeah,
Edition, the basic expert. When Dave Arneson wrote the modules, like I mean, I talk about it in the Blackmoor Foundations book that Gary and Dave, like, they made up and they weren't enemies anymore. Oh, who's this? Oh, this must be my insurance company. I guess I'll have to call them back again. Sorry. Um, they made up and they were friends, before they died. And so Gary went and had dinner at Dave's house in California with Dave's family. And Gary said, like, you should come back to TSR and you should write some modules for us. And so they, God, sorry, should turn off my phone for a while.
you could take
Power
the call.
off.
Just
I
I
hate
could
cell
just
phones.
stop this part of the recording.
Oh yeah, no, okay. Anyway, let's get back to it. So Gary has dinner with Dave at Dave's house, and Gary says, like, come back to TSR and you can write some modules, which he wrote with another writer. And so he created. They were the DA modules, the Dave Arneson modules, and I think those are for BX. I don't really know about them because there's so much to read and stuff, and I was so focused on old artifacts that I didn't care about that stuff. Um, and those are interesting too because we just got access to like a new map of Blackmoor Town, and Blackmoor Town is a city now, and it's really cool. And that hasn't been published yet either. And so, where was going with that? Yeah, I think that those modules might have had an impact because if it was the BX set that people were starting with that was translated, that was officially released by TSR in Portuguese, then the modules they would have gotten with that would have been the DA modules. And so that might have been the influence that created the interest in Dave Arneson and Blackmoor. It was like, well, he's the guy that started D&D. He's the guy that made these modules that we all love. And we're using these rules that are based on his rules. So, I mean, that kind of like ties it up into a neat little package, if you will.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you get any followers from Brazil on your show?
We know a few people from Brazil on Twitter. I don't know if they watch the channel or not, but we can ask them on Twitter, I guess.
Yeah.
But if they know, of course, they might not.
Have you ever considered doing stuff in Portuguese? Like, you write everything in English.
Not really, because I think that there's first there's a problem with the Brazilians not really wanting to read our Portuguese.
Okay.
So they would rather read it in English than in Portuguese.
Really?
Probably.
Especially if you're talking about rules, because for us, I also think and I had that experience in college. I had a physics book that was actually in Portuguese from Brazil, and that was
Really hard.
really hard for me because I don't know if it's the difference is as big as, or maybe the differences are bigger than the English from the US and England, because it's.
I mean, it's
we
not
have
really a different
grammar.
language. But
We have grammar
dialect.
differences. The way how we use verbs.
Okay.
So we have difference in vocabulary, but also in the way how we use verbs.
The way
so
we organize
strange.
the sentences is not really
Yes.
the same. So it can be easy to it can be difficult to understand what people are saying, and then there are many words that we don't use and they use, and vice versa.
I mean, I have the
Usually,
same. You know,
words,
Italians are the same. Every region has its own dialect. We talk
yeah,
about this every time I'm on your show.
probably yes.
But like in Italian, if you were to say like, "What do you have?" You say "Cosa hai." You know, it's like a very precise "Cosa hai." You know, but if you speak like the dialect from my mom's area, you say like "Costega."
Yeah,
You know,
it
and
doesn't seem to be the same thing. Yeah.
like instead of io o, like I have, you say "migo." It's a little bit like the Veronese dialect, but it's like the Udinese and Friuli dialect. The, and then of course I've told you about the Furlan, the French based language, francophone language in Italy. But no, I get it. It's like I can't understand people from other regions of Italy.
We can understand well, probably more than the Brazilians, because we're exposed to a lot of Brazilian soap operas, for example, or singers or actors. But reading rules, it's a bit more complicated.
Right, right.
Okay. Different
Um,
words for different for the same thing, and it's probably it's easier to just read it in English than
yeah.
reading
No,
it in
I
Portuguese.
ask these things because as independent
Mhm.
publishers, like you want to expand your reach with who you're talking to and who might want to buy your books, because that's what we're publishing books for. I mean, it's fun to write them and all that, but it's also nice to get a little bit extra money from your writings. And so I was just curious. It seems like Brazil would be like, if you were doing things in Portuguese, then Brazil would be like the ideal market for you guys. But maybe you need to hire a Brazilian to rewrite your books.
Well, yeah, that
You
could be
know,
possible.
and you
Doing
could,
that, maybe, yeah, that might be an option. I don't know.
yeah, no, I mean, because it's like you got this giant country that like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
they're like,
Portugal, it's just to forget. There's no market
I mean,
here.
how
But
many
yeah,
people are there
Italy,
in Portugal? Like about 40 or something like that. Like,
yeah, kind
Role
playing
players,
role playing should be something like that.
or
Yeah,
actually,
well,
there's 40 Portuguese and
yeah,
about 3 million British. Isn't that how it is?
it's yeah, it's probably no. Well, now they might start running away from England and coming here when
Yeah.
they are arresting everybody for
Oh,
sharing.
yeah. For
So yeah,
toxicity, same
but
reasons.
maybe we'll have more British living
even
here.
more, yay!
Yeah, even more. Yes.
Yeah, that's weird. I would come to Portugal, but I just despise British people, so I can't come there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well,
depends. You need to pick.
there are
You need to
some
decide
places.
where you're going to live. Yeah.
Like all my British
Well,
fans are like, click.
forget about the south then. Don't go south because
Yeah.
in Algarve there's lots of people of British
Yeah.
people more than Lisbon. Lisbon, that's
No,
you
if I
can.
come next time I come, I want to go to Italy. That's why people need to buy lots and lots of I've got these books here. Like, if you buy these books, then I'll have the money to go to Italy. And if I do go to Italy, I'd like to see if I can just like fly over for a day or two and visit you guys and hang out.
That
Maybe
would
do
be
some gaming or
Yeah.
something, or just drink.
yeah.
Or both.
We can
Or
drink a
both,
lot.
like really hard drinking gaming. Yeah.
We can parachute here and drop here.
Yeah.
Depends. I mean, where you go in Italy, because I think the low cost flights are not that.
Really?
Yeah.
From it should be
Yeah.
When I
From
was in Italy
Italy, it
last
depends
time,
where you.
they have these cheap airlines. I flew from Venice to
You have Ryanair and
Toulouse,
EasyJet.
France.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it Ryanair? No, it was some obscure Italian airline with, really dangerous airplanes that probably
They
have
are
to
all dangerous. So all
maintain.
that's the problem with
All
the low
those
cost.
little airlines are like, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I might not make it through this one. Yeah, but no, it was like $150 round trip to go to Toulouse for the weekend and visit my buddy Fabe. So,
Where is your hometown in Italy?
I
Not
grew up. Well, my family, my mom was born in Pula, which is now Croatia, and then between in the interwar years, they got booted out because they decided to make that part of the world into Croatia, which then became, and then after World War II, it became Yugoslavia, which doesn't exist as a country anymore. And so they moved just across the border up in a little town called Gorizia, which is just north of Trieste, like a half an hour or so. But so that's kind of like my, grandma's house. Like I'd go there to see my uncles and stuff. But then I mostly lived in Verona. So,
Mm.
but like when I go to Italy, I tend to hang out in. I also have like I have a weird family. My dad was an American, and he married an Italian woman, and his twin brother learned Italian well on an army base in America, and then he proceeded to go to Italy and meet an Italian woman and also get married to an Italian woman. So all my family is this weird mix of Italians and Americans, and then my cousins are married to like one is living in like Oman because she married a Druze, and another one's living in France, and they're all kind of all over. But they were mostly in Milan, so I kind of have a connection to Milano too. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long it would take to go by train. They have those fast trains now. Can't you
Oh
like
no, it will be probably.
two
You don't
days?
have a direct train, so I went to. You can go catch a train here from Paris. No, not from Paris, but not direct. Yes, you can catch a train here from Lisbon until the frontier with France, and then you can. It's an overnight train.
Okay.
Then you need to go to Paris probably, and to go to Italy. So we don't have a direct one. That's the problem with Portugal, because we are here in the S of Europe.
You're like in the middle of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah. And you have Spain, so you have to go through Spain to get anywhere.
But Portugal is so beautiful. God, why wouldn't people want to go there? Like I keep looking at pictures of like your beaches and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to go to Portugal and sit on the beach and drink. Is it the
Well,
port? Is it Vinho Verde? Is that the wine you guys have?
not us, but yes, we have. But we are
Oh, is
more
that somebody
red
else?
wine. Yes, we have Tinto almost all the time, but
Tinto.
we have Verde in Portugal. Yeah, but we are more.
Oh, okay. Oh no, I'm thinking of another country that has the Vinho Verde.
But we also have Verde. We
Yeah,
personally prefer Tinto.
yes, it's not our preference, but there are many people
Yeah,
that want.
it's that like fizzy sort of. It's
Yeah,
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 very
yeah. Yes.
sensitive. I mean, I don't know, GHEY sort of wine. As some of our friends call it. Yeah, well, I feel the same way. Like people what the hell is it called? There's that fizzy wine that's really popular in America now. It's a red Italian wine, and it's
It's
fizzy.
uh, it's not rosé. How does it call?
You know what I'm
No,
talking
it's not
about, though.
prosecco. It's
Prosecco, yeah.
prosecco.
Bruges.
And I'm just like, but it's sweet and it's terrible. You want a good dry wine, as far as I'm concerned. I'll just have to figure it out. Sorry, we're going on this like deviation about talking about how to get Griff to Portugal. I want to go to Portugal and I want to hang out and game with you guys, and so it's like, well, how do I
We
get
need to
there?
come back. We can do a convention with
I
like
bet.
3 or 4 people,
Wait,
all 4
We
Portugal
event.
players.
wait. I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna look this up because there's got to be like airfare. Because my area of Italy is kind of near Venice. That's usually where you can fly out of Venice to Lisbon.
I think here you have from Venice, from Milan, you have direct flights from most Italian big Italian cities, the cheap ones.
Yeah, it says Ryanair. That's really dangerous. There's Swiss too. But look at this. No, it says Ryanair, $148. I think you put yourself in a suitcase, like, and they just load you underneath the plane. But it's $148. Yeah, it's not that hard. It's $150 round trip. How can you go wrong? You know. Um, Anything else you guys want to pester me about? Like,
Do you want to talk about what you are doing now or next?
um, well, we
You're
just
not
got through
allowed.
all that drama with the Dave Arneson estate stuff,
Yeah,
where there was that company that was like
yeah.
doing.
So, how did it end, or did it not end yet?
Well, it's being discussed. I
Mhm.
won't say much more, but it's very seriously being discussed by a lot of people still. It's not over with.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't ask about it because I thought maybe that's something that you're not,
It's the
not
lawyers.
supposed to
I
talk.
don't, yeah, well, yeah, there are people being paid to discuss it. Let's just put
Yeah.
it that way. And then the other thing I'm doing, well, like the Rob Kuntz module, I just met up with the art artist. That was kind of funny. I met up with the artist in this coffee shop here. So we're sitting outside and I'm sipping away on my Americano and And suddenly everybody outside in the patio is looking at me, and I hear these cracking sounds over my head, and a branch dropped on my head, and like I'm all scratched up from having a see those little marks next to the bracelet from having a tree branch land on my head, but I survived. But the artist has been working on like just the drawings for the book, and so that's like the Into the Wild Blue Yonder, which I think the name needs to change on that module, because Into the Wild Blue Yonder is the song of the United States Air Force. Off we go into the wild blue yonder. So
like that.
it's not really. This is the Beast of Coot in the book. Yeah, we got a really good artist, this young guy here, to do this whole book for us, and he just cranks. He's like, he works 8 hours a day at his regular job, and then he goes home and he draws for 6 hours. He's a lunatic. I'm really lazy, so. But yeah, like all this, I don't know. It's kind of a cool style, right? So I met with him, and we were kind of reviewing the art, and like he's not really a D&Der, he's more of a fine artist. So when he was reading the part about there being a necromancer, he was like, "Well, is that any good for a necromancer?" And I'm like, that's kind of like just an elf girl sort of thing." And I had to explain, like, a necromancer you need a lot of skulls and things like that. So, but he's a great artist, you know. He's doing stuff like this would be appropriate to something like you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that one with the ghosts and the dead, the zombies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
with the. So yeah, we're doing that, working on that. Trying to be. What else? Oh, there's the city scene. It's kind of exciting to work with an artist that has like training, like is actually like sort of well trained, and does sort of like more fine art type stuff. Yeah, where was that one? It must be like down at the bottom somewhere. Anyway, I already pulled it up. But yeah, we're doing that. Rob Kuntz's module. It's hard. Like, how do you keep people excited about what you're doing when it takes time to make the new thing? And so, I mean, you guys, I'm amazed you guys crank stuff out really fast. I don't know how you do it.
It's all bad. That's why it's all shitty. So
No, it's not. I've seen it. It's not shitty. But
we're I'm fast. Especially doing the layouts. I'm pretty fast doing the layouts.
okay.
I can do it in a week, sometimes even less than that. I just finish.
I'm like deficient, and so it takes me a long time to do things because I get all OCD and ADHD.
Yeah, well, I don't have that.
I have to make him stop working now and then.
Oh, okay. So you have like the hyper focus thing going on.
Yeah, but I don't have that. When it's finished, it's finished. I know it's not perfect, but I'm not going to keep on looking at it and searching for small typos and all that. No, I don't care. It's done.
Yeah. Do you guys have a Patreon?
No.
Okay.
I started having a Patreon, but then they were censoring stuff, and I said, okay.
Oh yeah, I heard they're like sort of woke, and so they don't.
Yeah. And I said, okay.
And so I heard a lot of people aren't on that anymore because it was like.
Yeah, you're not supposed to use this or that word.
I don't understand. You know, like
what's the other thing that's not Patreon? There's something else, but I can't remember.
Coffee.
No, not that. Something that is really similar to Patreon, but it's not Patreon. I can't remember.
Subscribe Star? No.
Yeah, that's it. But apparently they don't work in Europe because I tried.
Oh.
I was able to open an account, but it didn't work. And I tried.
Why don't you just avoid using the bad words on Patreon? Is it just that you just can't write anything?
Yeah, I don't like being censored.
Yeah, I don't like being censored either. Like, my intent is not evil. I don't intend to be evil. I'm
just knowing you cannot say these words.
Language.
Yeah, you're just like, you know, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard being a liberal and using words like orc tribe. It's like, oops, did I say tribe? Oops.
Oh yeah, tribes.
Or
Yeah, that's
oh,
bad.
they're talking about the different races in your game.
You can say race. You can say mysterious.
Yeah.
Mysterious is censored because it's
Well, I just wondered because like you guys are like the bad, you're like the toxic triggering bikers of RPG, and so
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
like, what
Yeah,
is going on with you guys? How are you getting, how are you reaching out to people? No, I just asked about the Patreon because, or Patreon, or however you say it, because we were talking about doing it, but it seems like it would take time to do, and it would take me away from doing other things, and I'm
I
kind of
think you need to
limited on
promote the
time.
Patreon, right? And probably do
do something for the Patreon for the
for the
followers.
patrons. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then well, like, because you were asking me about like what I'm working on, and it's like, well, I'm working on things. We've got David McGarry's got 2 games he's working on. Um, it's all the same stuff I talk about. That's like it's in development. I'm working on. I also have like maybe a quarter of a manuscript for Brownstein, that game, by David
The last
Westford.
time we talked, you said that you were going to do a book about it, right? But it's been a
Yeah, I
long
was going
time.
to do a book about it, and so now, well, it took a long time talking to David because I thought he was going to write it, and he was just like, I can't write it. So it took like 2 years just to come to the realization that, or 3 years, that I needed to write it, and so now I kind of started writing it. I thought he was going to write most of it, so I'm writing it, but I'm using his material, and he's like just reading it and approving it. Um, and I tend to see, this is the thing, is like I'm just a nerd, and when I write about RPG stuff, I don't just make stuff up. You kind of get like a historical treatise on like why do we have doors that look like this on the maps, or what's the difference between a Brownstein and a Blackmoor. And so right now I'm just in the middle of writing this like really nerdy theoretical thing that most people will probably hate, about the difference between a Blackmoor style game, which is like Dungeons and Dragons or any other RPG, and a Brownstein. And I just kind of outline, categorize what are the differences and why they're unique. And because that's kind of my thing, I'm kind of boring like that. Like I'm just really into the whole theoretical side of it. Like, why do we do the things we do? Um, why did we start having a referee and everybody is together as a group of players, and then the referee is over here and they control all the monsters. That's kind of, see, I can see your faces just blanking out. You're just like, thanks, Griff. Anyway, so yeah, I'm working on that. I don't know, we have a lot of stuff we should just release. Like I think we should maybe make posters out of like the new Blackmoor city map we found. It would be cool just as a poster, you know and just getting stuff out like that people might want to hang up in their game room, just to kind of like add something colorful. Anything to get away from like that terrible WotC style art. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really anti AI art, but I'd rather have AI art than WotC art, because I just despise WotC so much. Um,
They
um,
could. They'll probably start using AI soon.
It's so bad and so ugly that why are they not using AI? Because it's badly done anyway.
yeah, I don't know. Well, they would train the AI to make more
If they
terrible
train it on
WotC
that,
art.
yes, if they train it on those artists, it won't work. It would be spewing out the same bullshit. But yeah,
I
it's
was
there.
just before the show started, this guy posted this thing about how, like, once all your art is AI furry porn, you'll have nothing to be disappointed in, or something to that effect. I was just laughing really hard. But
I
no, you
think
guys should. Hmm?
there's still lots of porn with AI, but I don't know if some of the models aren't uh, not safe for work, so that they can't use them for that.
Right. I
The older
worry. I mean, AI porn means that. I mean, like, just like if you've already got issues with too many fingers. I mean,
too many dicks. I don't think so.
yeah, it's just a sausage display. I kind of worry about that. The AI porn is going to be terrifying.
Well, tentacles, tentacle
Tentacles,
porn.
yeah. Um, is there anything else you wanted to pester me about? I mean, I'm just kind of like, I can't think of anything. I showed you my pictures. I showed you my books. I told you about other books.
We planned your trip to Lisbon in our first convention.
Yeah. Well, when you told me that you had like all those people in Lisbon who were like sort of making fun of you guys, I was like, "Oh, you can't make fun
It
of my
was a it
friends.
was
I'm
a
going to come over
nice,
there and I'm going to mess you people up. Like, I'm
it
an
was a lovely
American.
story.
You know what we do. We're bad.
They
It's
are
like a
very
war zone here. You people have no idea what you're messing with."
And kids, most of them are really
yeah,
Really?
young. Yeah.
woke kids and
Oh,
woke old people as well,
yeah,
not just kids, older ones.
yeah.
I don't even care.
Whatever. I don't care about that stuff anymore. I mean, they're all on. Have you been watching? Oh, have you been following any of the stuff about like the whole like Star Wars and comic book culture stuff and all that? Like,
The only thing I saw was the Acolyte. All those posts about the Acolytes.
Only what people say about it.
Yeah.
We never see the shows,
uh,
but I like to watch what like those guys that have YouTube channels like Nerdrotic.
Nerdrotic. I think it's Nerdrotic. He's great.
That guy.
Nerdrotic, and I know who you're talking about. The guy that the drunk critic,
Critical drinker.
or
Yeah.
critical drinker. Yeah, I watched
Those
all of
guys
that.
are very fun to watch.
I think, but they're lucky because of these awful movies. Gave them a lot of
I
material.
know.
Just
They
think
have
that's
so
in the
much.
channel.
Like
I didn't
Disney's
watch
just
that.
churning out material for them. Like, here's another bad movie. Oh, the power of money. Yeah.
Hey, that one was an awful thing. I did watch that one. That
Yeah,
Well,
episode.
2
it's all over. It's
episodes.
over
Yeah.
with as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
They're in retreat. Nobody cares. Like the video game industry, I've been following what's going on in that, and it's just like, people just want to play their games. Like they don't want to get schooled on be told they're amoral or whatever. They just want to play their games. Like you're playing a video game, all you want to do is shoot the make believe thing I made out of pixels over there. Like you don't care, right?
And
What
they
I
are
think is
expensive.
really weird was for example, with the Acolyte, that were the people defending it. Oh no, you're just saying the show is really good. You're just saying you don't like it because you're racist. No, the show is awful. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
Even if
just
we
talked
were
to my
all
friend
racist,
yesterday, and he said the same
don't
thing. He
care.
was just, "What's that?"
Even if we were all racist, the show is bad anyway. So it's
Well,
never mind why we don't like it. It's awful. No
yeah,
one can like that.
I
It's
keep
really
telling people there's like other better stuff up there, but it's kind of grown up stuff. Like I keep telling people to watch Undying, this German film. Like you guys are into horror, you'd like it's very much like a horror theme type thing. Undying,
And dying.
Undine,
let me check that.
Undine.
Yeah, I don't really care about Star Wars from a long time.
Yeah, I stopped watching after the third
Since
one.
since the first prequels, that's when Star Wars was finished for me. So it was a long time
I
ago.
also, I
Oh,
also
but if you want to watch like look at all the stuff about the video game industry stuff, that's really interesting.
yeah.
Like if you watch Nerdrotic, and that's like fascinating, and it's like people just want to
I
play their
haven't
dumb
played it
game.
in years as well, but I've been following the controversies about those that company, Sweet Baby Inc.
Yeah, all of that. It's just ridiculous. Like they're extorting. It seems like they're extorting companies for millions of dollars
Yeah,
to go in and then
looks like-
destroy the game they're producing by making it, all proper and everything.
That
And
was
I'm just
the
like,
Ubisoft thing with the
see, I'm
Black
doing
Site.
the opposite with my next book. Is I'm actually like putting all the triggers into it and all the bad things, and but I want to make sure to have a warning on there because I think the warning might actually sell more books.
Yeah, maybe.
Like everybody will be like, "Oh, that looks like it might actually be interesting." Yeah. Like,
Well,
maybe it's something a grown-up could read.
parental advisory was something that
Yeah.
were music, right? If it had
Yeah.
parental advisory, teenagers would want to listen to it.
Right. It was like when they started putting the stickers on all the records, it was suddenly like, oh, that's the good stuff. It's going to have that's the good stuff. I want the one with the parental advisory on it. Yeah, so I'll probably do that. That's probably even more. Maybe I should just put a parental advisory on
I think so. Yeah.
my book too. But yeah, no, nobody wants to harm anybody or anything. Nobody wants to be mean, but I am tired of all that stuff. I just saw something earlier today, somebody accusing D&D of being colonialist, and I'm like,
Again,
it's the Middle Ages. It's pre-colonial, you moron.
I'm almost convincing Miguel that we should do a game based on the discoveries.
yeah, I think
So
okay.
it's a trigger base.
I am convinced now to turn the what's it called, Lusiad, into
The
a role play.
Lusiads, yes.
So it's our epic tale from the Renaissance.
Which one are you talking about?
Let me, I'll share a link.
Okay.
It's a Portuguese how do you call it? Heroic poem. So
Oh, really?
basically, in the Renaissance, but it was imitating the style of Virgil.
Okay.
So it talks about the Portuguese
I thought
Okay.
history
this.
Oh, the
and
Luciads.
the discoveries, and we had to read it in school too
Yeah,
too
Okay.
many times.
Oh, yeah.
But I
but
convinced Miguel to turn this into
it
a role
holds.
playing game.
There's mythology in there, and
Yeah,
not
Yeah.
just. So I guess it could be something.
and they find monsters in the sea and
Okay,
all
so
that.
what I'm thinking about is this is could be Jason and the Argonauts, the movie, Ray Harryhausen with some weird
With
special effects.
just, yeah, and improper things.
Yeah, and there was only so when there was a chapter that we only were able to read when we were in the 12th grade. That was the
Second,
Pleasure Islands, right?
yeah,
It's what we
yeah.
no the Love Islands, the Love Islands,
The Love
because it was
Island.
very naughty. Because this
See,
when
when
they
I
go
was a kid, we
I
had
think
Treasure Island, but
the
maybe
Island
just
of Love,
Pleasure
maybe.
Island.
yeah, the Island of Love. When you got and you finally got to read it, oh, is this as boring as the rest? You were fooling me all this time.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
an
I don't know. Is there anything else we need to talk about? I feel like I'm just being really boring as a guest. I need to be
voice.
more toxic, maybe, but I'm not allowed to do that. I promised Chris I wouldn't really do
Oh, okay.
the thing.
So you can talk about.
Well, most of your viewers are probably conservative, so I can just reveal that I'm
You,
like a rabid liberal, and that'll create controversy.
they
I
already
think
know that you're a rabid
they know
liberal.
you.
You can. That's why you have the hair, right? It's to
Yeah,
show that
I'm
you
like,
are.
look, I look like not like Trotsky. I look like a Russian poet. Like, yeah, I'm not to be trusted.
You've been on.
I'm drinking Mexican Coke. It's Coke. It's got to be socialist, right?
You've been on inappropriate characters, so you
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
It's probably the most conservative show. I don't know.
yeah. And
Maybe.
they're nice to me. They like me, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. If the pundit likes you, I don't think that you have a problem.
Well, for some people,
Avenger
it's
likes
gonna be.
him.
But
Avenger is.
that's another different.
Well, and then I went to, yeah. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, all that stupid stuff about
Yeah.
politics and all that in gaming. Just have fun, play with your friends. Especially now. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Like, it's bad enough being in America with our new election, but you guys must be getting bombed with stuff where you don't even understand it. It's just weird,
Yeah, I
American.
don't understand everything, but I'm starting to know more about your politics than our own. I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
By watching shows and YouTube channels and all that, I think
Mm.
I'm starting to know more about our politicians than ours.
But yeah,
Uh,
we're in that cycle, and it's like I can't look at anything on my computer without getting
yes. Yeah.
one side or the
I can
other, and I'm
imagine
not
that it's
on either
always.
side. I'm kind of like, whatever. What's that?
I can imagine it be annoying if for me it's not annoying because I don't live in America. I mean, if it
Yeah,
was, it would be very, very, very annoying. So it's like the thing in the UK. But at the same time, we are just watching the circus. So
yeah.
it's different when it's in your own
Yeah,
country.
it's
The
different.
zoo.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, it's different.
Yeah. Uh, all
So
right.
it's
Sorry, I brought it up. Um,
no problem.
what else? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my thing is just I just want to keep playing games and having fun. But it's hard. I'm really into wargaming. It's hard to get wargamers. We're gonna do the convention too, which is gonna be really fun. Arnecon, and we just came up with the new logo. Like you can go on the Arnecon
Where
art.
is it going to? Where is it going to happen?
It's in the Twin
So
Cities.
it's in the okay. No, but when? When? Sorry, I meant when.
Yeah, and I was just talking to a guy. I won't reveal his name just because I have not gotten approval to use his name publicly. But I was just talking to him, and he was very excited to go, and he was talking about how amazing it was to be at a convention where the games were like one table to a room, and
Mhm.
we're keeping that for at least the really important games. And then we have some spare rooms where we have games, but we're like, a room where you might be able to fit oh geez, like 6 tables in, we might have like 3 or 4 tables. And so there's not going to be a lot of that noise factor of like the low budget conventions. And we're going to keep trying to keep the number of people that go pretty low. There's another big convention here called North Texas RPG Con. I really want to go to that one because it's the same sort of approach. They won't do more than 350 people in their convention. Arnecon is really small. We're only selling, if we sell out, we will sell like 130 tickets. So if you consider that our guests, 30 of the people there are sort of like important people in gaming. And so if you consider that out of 130 people, what you've got like more than a fifth are going to be significant gamers, and you'll be able to just hang out and talk to these game designers. It kind of makes it a really different experience than going to like Gen Con, where it's just a sea of people. Like I see the pictures. What is it? Is it Diversity and Dragons? He did that. Did you watch any
People
of his
coming
Gen
in.
Con
Yeah,
reports?
I saw that video of the people coming in like way back.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrible. I won't go to that. I just, what's the point? And then yeah, so it's just gonna, it's gonna be a fun convention. And I think people are just shocked at like the sort of like the real uh the the direct access they have to the people who were supposedly like superstars in gaming. But we're all gamers, so you can talk to David Wesley or David McGarry, who made games that, like McGarry's Dungeon board game has sold millions of copies. Like it is a global world bestseller, and you can just sit down and talk to him about gaming. He'll be there, and he's very open to that. And Rob Kuntz, of course, who's so significant in as sort of like what I call him, the fulcrum. He's like the little middle point in the lens that everything travels through. And Rob Kuntz will be there, and we're bringing him from France. And then who else? Wesley, all the regular gang, Macris. I don't know if you say it Macris or Macri. I don't know if it's a French.
I asked him that question when he had him here, but
I think it's Macri, but I'm not sure.
It's Macri.
I think it's supposed to be, but I think he said it as Macris. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, like that's that whole thing. Like back to the whole political thing. I talk about the political thing because I want to just depoliticize the gaming thing. And Macris is probably fairly conservative. I don't care. Like I think that it's beautiful that he and I could sit down at a table and play a game together, and I'm fairly liberal, whatever that means, and have a good time, and so yeah, so like I'm sure some people are sort of scratching their heads like, oh, there's going to be like this conservative dude at Arnecon. It's like, no, there's going to be this gamer guy at Arnecon who makes games, and that's why he's there, because it's a gaming convention, and he's going to be there talking about gaming, and the same thing with like, somebody who's all freaked out about like, oh, I can't be where all the liberal gamers are, right? It's like, well, there's going to be Griff there, who's probably fairly liberal. I won't tell you my politics really, but I'm a lefty, and I'm just there to talk about gaming. I'm going to be running a war, like I'm going to run Fletcher Pratt. We're going to blow up each other's World War II ships, yeah, so I'm excited about that because that's getting closer and closer. We're in August, and it's October 4th, so it's like, what have we got? Like maybe 7 weeks or something like that till.
Yeah. Month and a half.
Till I travel up to the Twin Cities and do some gaming. And we just released the t-shirt design. So that was interesting because I dropped that last night. 10 shirts sold overnight, So for a little convention like ours, it's kind of cool. And then along with that, we have what else did? Oh yeah, we made it so people can sign up for events now. And so all the events are scheduled, and that was why I talked to the guy earlier. He messaged me on Twitter, and I was like, why don't we just talk on the phone, and we don't have to have a public conversation in the Twitter stream. So I called him, and he's up in the Twin Cities. It's just a gamer guy, really nice guy. But he was saying how he was like astounded at the the quality of the events that we have. And then he's just like, I don't know what to do because you have this person running this game here and I want to play with them, and you have this person running this game at the same time. Um, like our Friday night slot is like all the big hitters. You know, you've got me. You've got I think Dan Boggs is running a game Friday night. We've got Nakri running a game. We've got Rob Kuntz running a game. We've got we might have David McGarry running a game too, a sci-fi game. And then we've got who else? There's a couple others, but it's like, you know, you these are the offerings. Which one do you want to do? And if you do this one, you're going to miss these other 4 or 5 games you want to play. And it's like that through the whole convention. I mean, there's just like, you know, even Mike Carr, who invented the this World War One flying game called Dawn Patrol. He's going to be there with his group running Dawn Patrol games. And so that's kind of a game. I think that was released. That was released a long time ago, maybe even before. He is the only person that has run a game at Gen Con, every Gen Con ever. Okay, so that gives you an idea of like where he is with that. But he's going to be there with his group running his game. I mean, it's just like these are like there are these, you know. I mean, I'm pretty humble. I'm just a gamer nerd like you guys, right? But when you get around people like Wesley, I mean, wouldn't you like to play a game with David Wesley? Like you saw him in the film, I'm sure, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy's weird. I want to know what he's doing, you know. But they're also sort of like these living legends, you know, and so like the experience of being able to play a game with Rob Kuntz is like, it's really rare, you know. Not that many people can have that experience. He can only DM for so many people in his entire lifetime, you know. And so, yeah, I can't do enough to talk about how great the convention is going to be, and it's tiny, you know. So yeah, in fact, you know, you guys being in Portugal, you should get Rob Kuntz to come to your local convention.
There's no well. There's a micro convention.
Really?
Yeah, the one that kicked us off, yeah, that gave us the price and then said that they took it away.
Oh, do your own convention,
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I don't think Miguel would like to do that.
Okay.
So I would have to be the one organizing.
Organizing stuff. I hate that. Organizing stuff is not for me.
Okay.
I would need to convince someone to help me organizing.
Would you guys ever go to something like Lucca in Italy?
No.
No, too big.
I know it by name, but
Yeah.
Well, I was never in Italy, so
Okay. Well, and then yeah, you don't want to go to Italy. It's people that look like me. They're dirty. You know, they don't. All right. Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of. Anyway. All right.
okay.
Cheers, guys.
Bye bye.
okay. Thanks
Ciao.
for coming. Bye bye.
Boop, 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 boop.